Well, welcome along to the 24-25 season, and our fourth season of giving you this podcast here at ShrimpNet. We have a newish format, slightly sharper, slightly shorter, but same tired and cliched presenter in me. Terribly sorry about that. But hopefully the added sparkle and pizzazz will be that this week, obviously, as usual, we've got Joel with us. I'm delighted we welcome club captain Yann Songo'o and also the fragrant James Wakefield from the boardroom to discuss all that's going on around the club. Good afternoon, gents. Good evening, gents. Thanks for doing this.
Good evening.
So it's an easy start. I'm gonna throw this out there. Yann, we'll come to your momentous club captaincy in a bit, but Walsall on Saturday. It's safe to say it was a tricky away game. Huddersfield on Tuesday night was even trickier. We know Gills is going to be even trickier. It's been a tough old start. How's the dressing room looking?
Everyone's looking good. You know, you have to remember that we are a brand new squad. The club, and the manager have to bring in 17 new players and try to get our team together in 3 weeks. It's not easy, but the boys are in a really good spirit. We all are. We know how good we can be and how good we're going to be. Looking forward into the season. But yeah, Walsall obviously is always a really difficult place good to go, and obviously it was the first time that obviously there was a starting 11 that played together in an official game, and we don't try to put any excuses, but obviously it was a tough game. We have a poor first half, and I think second half we were a tiny bit better. But yeah, it's just obviously now we have a really good session today. Obviously, the Huddersfield game obviously is a top team, a team that obviously should be playing higher up. We try to play, give obviously other players that haven't played as much and try to get. Obviously we went for to try to get something, to try to get the win, but obviously early in the game, they scored this early goal in the game, and I think that put us a little bit in the back foot, and I think from there the game was already over.
And we started with what looked like you in the middle of a back three or a back five on Tuesday night. Was that right?
Yes.
And like you say, didn't go particularly auspiciously, because 30 seconds later we were at goal down, and I'm like, well, of all the starts, where do you go from there? It was a long way back, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, if you look at the goals that we conceded on Tuesday, was our own mistakes. I think when you look at the shape of the team was good. We moved the ball quite good. We didn't really hurt them enough. We would have liked obviously to have more shots, be a little bit more dangerous. But when it comes to the shape and the togetherness and start understanding what the manager wants from us, I think we can take some positive from Saturday. And Tuesday is not all negative. I know the result is important and we won. Then the day football is about winning, but obviously it's as well some positive to take from Saturday and Tuesday, and is obviously the shape and the communication and the movement and start again is more to each other. We gained there, and obviously today, like I said before, today at training, everyone looks really sharp, everyone looks switch on, and everyone is really looking forward for that game on Saturday.
And I'll come to you now, Joel. I think it's a fair point that Yann makes there that we haven't discussed yet, because obviously the first podcast of the season. Making so many signings from all over the place. Obviously, some players know each other, other players don't. It was always going to be quite a difficult start when even the fixtures come out. In this division, you start and everybody's up for it. First game is always a tricky one.
Yeah, and I think, you look at some of the moments in the first. Well, look at the team that we're playing against in Walsall, and obviously I think Matt Sadler, the manager's been there for a couple of years now, and he's broadly been building a side in a pretty consistent way. Obviously, they have that 3-5-2. They're quite direct with Jamil Matt up front, and they've got a pretty solid back three. And yeah, we've come into it with a load of new players, and I thought there were moments in the first half where we kind of broke when the game was a bit more open, and we kind of broke and we kind of got towards their final third, and then that kind of precision in the pass and that knowing exactly where each other's runs were going to be and just making sure those decisions and the precision and your execution was really tight. It wasn't quite there, and I think that is just ultimately something that might just be down to first proper league game and players who haven't played together in that kind of context before. So yeah, I think it ultimately always was going to be a bit of a difficulty, and it might take a couple of games to bed in. And then obviously when they got the goal going in the second half, I thought they were pretty masterful at killing the game. To be honest, I thought they walled it off. They kind of sat in their own half. I mean, I look back on victories that we've had before, and we've done the same to the opposition team. We've had a lead and we've sat back really well on it, and we've just made them pass it sideways between the defenders, and that's kind of what they made us do. And unfortunately, we weren't able to kind of pick the lock through midfield. So yeah, it was a tricky one really, and fair play to Walsall. I think they did what they needed to do to get the win. I remember we had a bit of a kind of build up of pressure in the second half for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then their keeper kind of goes down with a mystery injury, kind of takes the sting out of it, and a bit of dark arts. But you won't see me complaining if we start if we're doing that. So I can't really complain too much when an opposition team does it. So yeah, look, it was always going to be tough, especially against a good defensively sound team like Walsall. So it's a shame about the result, but I think it's just one you've got to move on from and keep building and keep getting that fluency going forward and just kick on for next week, really.
And I'll come to you, James, now with the Huddersfield game. That was always going to be a tricky one. They've kept quite a few players from the side that got relegated who have got probably championship quality still in them. And they've made 2 or 3 really, really good signings. And that showed because they had, with the best will in the world, if you make 6 or 7 changes to a squad, that's when it really is helpful having the friendlies. But when you're making 17 changes to a squad, that is going to make a massive, massive difference. And while friendlies give you a marker as to where you're at, it is only when the real games start that you find out who, what, where, why, when, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as Yann said, you concede an early goal against a team that spent the best part of the last decade either in the Championship or the Premier League and have retained a lot of the players that they had in the Championship last year. It's always going to be tough. I think one positive for me from it was that despite the fact that we were 3-0 down, nobody's heads dropped in the second half. We created our better opportunities and actually got forward in the second half and kept going. And I wouldn't expect anybody to give up at Morecambe. It's just not something that we do. But there was an encouraging show of sort of fight and spirit there. And my view on Saturday is actually the hardest thing to do is to get a defence to gel after so many changes, and we barely conceded a proper chance against Walsall. That was a cracking goal from outside the box that they scored, and aside from that, wasn't much that really threatened us. So I think there was genuinely good signs to build from against Walsall. Huddersfield, it's a shame. You've got to basically take the few chances you're going to get against a team that's just come down from the Championship, and we didn't. But say la vie, we've got a league game against Gillingham on Saturday, so on to that.
And just to talk a little bit about the situation with the defence being fairly solid. Bad news with George Ray being out for possibly 2 to 3 months, Yann. That's because he's looked like building a good partnership with Jamie Stott at the back, and to lose him halfway through the first game, that's not great, is it?
No, he's obviously George is a big leader, experienced player. Obviously losing him the way we have is really unfortunate, but obviously it's football. But at the same time, the gaffer has built a squad that everyone in this team generally can start and play. Max, obviously, that wasn't involved over the day. He had a really good pre-season. He's ready to go, and obviously play as well most of the pre-season game with Stotty. So obviously, I don't think it will be much difference there because obviously they're both really similar. Similar defender to George. He's solid, he's strong, he's tall. I think over there, Huddersfield taking away the goals, I think he was really good. He defended really well. He moved the ball really well. he was aggressive, and obviously had to take them positive from there. And obviously, like I said, the gaffer like to build teams that where everyone is up for the challenge, everyone up to play. And obviously, I don't know what the team will be Saturday, but obviously, if he's Max or if he's me or if he's anybody else, I'm sure that person will be there to do the job.
So where would you rather be, in the middle of a back three or in the defensive midfield role that you're known for?
To be honest with you, anywhere where I can help the team. You know, if the manager feels that he's at the back is the midfield. Wherever if he found fit that in the game that would be the best way to win the game. I'm happy to play in any of them positions. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I figured you were going to say that, because most supporters would say, "Who likes a challenge?" and they'd say, "Yeah, it was you, because you're pretty good in the air and you're pretty good at getting stuck in on the deck. You like to get in amongst it, don't you, Yann?"
Yeah, I do. I like a challenge. I like my aggressive football. I think this league is a really physical league where there's lots of challenges. Where most of these games in this league, you win them in the middle of the park, and obviously being there, obviously for second balls and things like that is really important in this league. So yeah, enjoy. You know, do what I would call the dirty work. You know, the job that not many players really like doing, but it's important as well. You know, because obviously that give the freedom to the creative players that we have in the squad to go out there and create, and knowing that behind them is someone with a back four that are there to protect them as well.
And just quickly, I'll allude to the fact now that we've got Gillingham on Saturday, and I've looked at their signings, and obviously they've got some really good. They got Tim Dieng, who helped Exeter get up, Jaden Clark, Josh Chambers, Ashley Addison, Jack Nolan, Elliot Nevitt, two really good keepers, Glenn Morris, Jake Turner, Connor Masterson. So they've got a couple of decent lads they've signed from Wimbledon as well, Ethan Coleman. So it's like, I'm looking at it, George Lapsley, and I'm going down the list and I'm thinking, dear Lord. And looking at this now, Joel, Gillingham have recruited really well. And got to be, I mean, the bookies have them one of their favourites, and I can understand why now, looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, they've recruited a really good squad. They've got a lot of money back behind them, so you know they're understandably and probably rightly so favourites with a good manager who's won promotion from the division before. But at the end of the day, you know, we've typically under Derek we've had a really strong home record at the Mazuma. So even going back to when we were in League One and you know the resource cap was even bigger, I'd still have a bit of a bit more of an air of confidence when we welcome teams to the Mazuma, and I still have that now. But now we're down in League Two, so yeah, look, they've got a very good squad. We've got very capable players, but that's no reason why we can't give them a very good game on Saturday. And you know, hopefully maybe they will turn up expecting to have a bit of an easy time, but they definitely won't have it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what style they're going to play, because they've sort of they've switched a lot in the past years. Gillingham used to be, shall we say, quite combative and get it forward early, but by looking at those players, it doesn't look like they're going to probably do that, James. They look to be a bit more measured approach there, which might suit us on Saturday.
Yeah, and ultimately, whilst I know Derek will, can you hear me? Yeah, whilst I know Derek will be studying Gillingham carefully and making sure that we're set up correctly, you kind of like just got to not care about what the other team's doing from an attitude and going into it perspective. And also, you know, they've got a canny manager. He'll change his tactics depending on the game, and he'll adapt too. The Mazuma is a difficult place to come to. The squad's got plenty of confidence. Don't care who the favourites are at this stage. There's been one game, so you know I quite like Gillingham. I'm quite fond of them. I like Matt Boosie, and I've been well looked after when I've gone there. And it's a club that I think has probably had a tough time at points over the course of the last few years, as have most League One and League Two clubs. But they're coming all the way to Morecambe from Kent. It's not an easy trip, and hopefully they'll leave with nothing.
I hope so. I've got one question for Yann, and I suppose you have a couple as well, Joel, as well. So I'll lead. The decision to give you the club captaincy, how did that come about? Was that Derek just saying, right, you're my senior pro, you're going to be my leader on and off the pitch? Did he discuss it with you? Or did he just tell you what happened, Yann?
Yeah, pretty much. It was we had a meeting, and obviously he felt that was the right time, and obviously you know, my personality. Obviously we have loads of new players in. He knows that I know his philosophy. You know, obviously that I have them in. I'm a natural leader, and he thought that it was just the right time, the right moment to give me the hard man and be club captain.
And that's you took that honour on, and it's quite a nice honour to have, because you, like you say, you are probably one of our senior pros now, although we haven't got as many youngsters as we used to have. But obviously, this will be your third season with us. But obviously, from that point of view, you've done some stuff with Derek at Bradford as well. So, like you say, you are quite well known to him. So, did it come as a surprise?
No, not really. You know, that, to be fair to me, obviously, I always consider myself a leader. I like to communicate to my teammates and to my team. So obviously, be captain is, it give you more responsibilities, but it doesn't change who I am. I've always been, you know, a person that like to communicate, to be positive to my teammates, and drive people forward, and things like that. So it doesn't change. It's part of my personality. It's part of me. So obviously, give me the hand and give me more responsibility that I'm really proud to take. But nothing changed for me.
And just before I come to Joel here, it's something we've mentioned. We've mentioned it in just about, I think, every season we've had a podcast, Joel, that we mentioned the promotion season when we actually got into League One. And we always laugh at this, but how many goals did you score that season, Yann?
6.
Yeah.
6, yeah.
And we reckoned the combined yardage of those 6 goals was about 35 yards, and about 5 of them from about 1.5 yards, and the other one was from 25 yards. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
I always remember the one at Walsall where keeper flapped at it and it was probably going in anyway, but you made sure, and I was laughing because I was like, "That's Yann for you." It's 6 inches out. I'll put that in.
Just
Joel,
one thing
your floor.
to jump in before Joel, just did something to say that I think a lot of people spotted home and away last season is when Yann was on the pitch. He's one of the most vocal people. When Yann wasn't on the pitch last season, he literally kicks every single ball from the sideline. He's living every single pass. You were so vocal, Yann, last season, whether you were on the pitch or not. It was really notable to see you demonstrate leadership in the stadium to the team, whatever you were doing. And I remember thinking about 2/3 of the way through the season, like, this is just good to see. It doesn't matter whether you're on the pitch or not. There was real leadership there. So it's nice to see you, Captain.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yours.
Yeah, no, yeah. At the end of the day, I think good captain doesn't necessarily need an armband to lead, and obviously we saw that plenty of times last season from Yann. But kind of go into the start of your career, Yann. What I think I kind of forget about it because it feels quite it was quite a while ago. But obviously at the start of your career, you moved to America and you had a couple of spells with clubs in America. So and I think you would have been quite young at that point, maybe like early 20s. So I just wondered what that was like, kind of heading over to America, to a new country, and playing your football over there.
It was a really good experience. You know, obviously, I was in Spain, and I felt that obviously at the time, I got a good offer to go play in the MLS, and I wanted to try something different, and I went there, and I genuinely and really enjoyed my time there. You know, I was expecting to obviously stay there more years than I stay. But obviously when my dream was always to come to play in England, and obviously when I got the opportunity to play in England, I didn't think twice, and I came back here. But yeah, it was a really, really good experience. I enjoy every single moment that was there, and yeah, it was really good.
So obviously, like you say, you've come back to England with Blackburn Rovers, and then you've been summoned up to right to the very north of Scotland with Ross County on loan. So I kind of wondered, like, how did Derek kind of first make that contact with you? Had he seen you play in America? Had he seen you play a little bit for Blackburn? What was the kind of connection there that kind of first kind of?
I think he saw a couple of games of me playing at Blackburn, and obviously it was a time for me that was young, and I needed game time. I wanted to play, and he gave me the floor. He gave me the opportunity to play some professional football up in Scotland, and I went there and I had a really good spell at the club. We did really well. We finished the highest we could have finished that season, and obviously since then we always had a good relationship, always stay in contact, and until today.
And then obviously that contact obviously brought you to Plymouth a couple of years later, and you've had the promotion in that first season. But I always think what's pretty amazing, and I feel gets overlooked about yours and Derek's time at Plymouth, is that first season in League One. Obviously, you just missed out in the playoffs. But I was having a look back over it today, and you went one win in your first 14 games for Plymouth in League One. It was one win in 14, and you only got out the bottom two on game week 21. And then after that, obviously, you've gone on this kind of insane run of 2 defeats in 21 games, and you've got 14 wins in that time, and only just missed out on the playoffs. So I do kind of wonder what was the thing that you thought kind of turned it around at Plymouth in that first League One season, because it was looking pretty bleak before.
I think it was as well. We have a new squad, new players. That season, a lot of players left. I think we had 14 new signings, something like that, and it takes time, to gel and to understand the Gaffer philosophy, about soon as the players understand what the Gaffer wants and need from them, everything just clicked, and then obviously from there, like, we knew what everyone needed to do on the pitch, and then obviously we went and had a good run. He's well known to make his team really strong at home. We ended up not losing any game at home, I think, when we went on that run. And obviously we missed the playoff by 1 point or 2 points that season. So it was unfortunate, but was a really enjoyable season for us that year.
So I guess kind of from what you said there, I guess there are some probably some lessons that you can take into this season, in that you made a lot of signings, and it can sometimes just take a little bit of time to settle. Obviously, hopefully it'll take a little bit quicker than it did in that season. But is that something you can take from that season and bring into this one and say, look, it might just take a few games to settle, but when it does, it will really kick on?
Well, I can give you some facts here. When my first season at Plymouth, we had pretty much around the same 15 to 17 new players we had, and we lost our first 3 games. And then we went on the run. I think it was 14, 16 games unbeaten, and never left that top 3. So it's not excuses to be made, but obviously when you play against players they haven't not played before, as good as they are, it needs time to gel. It needs time to understand the Gaffer philosophy, what he want from the team, and but slowly we gained there. We knew, regardless of the results of Huddersfield or Walsall, even with the one, we know that it's still a lot of work that we have to be doing, and obviously is now for us is focusing on ourselves on game better. Obviously we know we need to start getting results, but obviously it's early in the season. Saturday is the second game of the season. It's a really, really, really long season, and but we'll be up for it. I really have a strong belief in this squad and the staff and the club, and we know where the club want to be. There's no secret about that, and I'm pretty sure, really confident that we will achieve our achievement that we want to achieve this season.
See, you kind of touched on Derek typically building strong home form, and obviously that's something we've very much seen throughout the spells that he's had at Morecambe. So I wondered if you've got an idea of what the kind of secret to that is. Why do you think Derek is able to build such kind of strong home form for the teams he manages?
I think he understands his players. He know the type of players that he want. The type of players that he's signing, and he has a way of playing football, a way of giving that winning mentality to players, that to be that togetherness. He got his own way of doing things that has worked really well for him. Derek in the gaff in this league. His numbers speak for himself. Got to promotion of this league, I think, of 4 seasons or something like that he playing in League Two, and he's a really really top manager. He know how to manage a squad, and he just know how to get the job done.
So, kind of touching on his philosophy, I think and I think a lot of people stereotype Derek's philosophy as being purely defensive, but I don't really think it's that. And if you look back at our promotion season, we actually scored really quite a lot of goals that season, and we actually shipped a fair few as well. So I wondered how you kind of summarize Derek's kind of philosophy and approach to how he wants his football teams to play.
Well, why is defensive? Because at the end of the day, in football, it's about winning football matches. And obviously, it's games that you win ugly, but it's still a win. If I go like you were saying, the season that we got promoted with Morecambe, but people were saying that we were defensive. But if you look at the start of every single game, we didn't have the possession, but we have the most shots and the most shots in targets every single game. So and at the end of the day, the football is about scoring goals, and that's his philosophy to keep a team compact, to keep a team strong, keep together, make sure that the team stay in the game, and when you get your chances, obviously make sure you put them in the net. And I think even last season we saw a little bit of that before we left. We were really strong, and every game we might not have as much as the balls of a team, but we're always creating the best chances of the game. So that's what it's all about. Football is about winning football matches, and then the day, obviously, people want to play some nice football, and nice football for me is go to the football match and see action and see crosses and see goals and see shots. It's not about passing the ball around the back four and get left and right, and it look nice into the eyes, it look nice into possession for some fun. I understand and I respect that, but at the end of the day, is about getting the fans excited, getting the fans up the seat, and that's just by creating chances, moving the ball forward, put the ball forward as quick as you can, create it by crosses and counting with shots.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great summary. Really, I think, like you say, it's not about how much possession you have; it's about what you do with it and making sure that when you do have the ball, you're creating chances. And that, at the end of the day, it's about creating chances and scoring goals. And those are what are going to win you games in the end, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Even if you look at our final at Wembley, Newport has probably like 80% of possession in that game. But we were frustrated by keeping a good shape, getting our chances where we could get our chances, and that's what it's all about. If you don't concede goals and you're solid, you get always your chance to be in the game and to win football matches, and that was a message that you always give to the team, is obviously to be as solid as possible, stay together, make sure they don't break your lines, and when you get chances, play forward as quick as you can, find the first pass, get forward and try to get a chance.
I think you just going back to that promotion campaign, but I think specifically the playoffs. I think it felt like throughout the team there was that diligence to kind of, obviously, because I think throughout the season we played weaker teams in the division, and they're obviously bottom half teams. They're a bit easier to kind of cut open, but obviously then we've come up against some of the top teams in the divisions in those playoffs, and it felt like we were so compact and we were so organized and we were so hard to break down, and especially just in those one-off games, like you get in the playoffs. I guess it's so important. It feels like from the outside, there was a real togetherness and a kind of determination throughout the squad in those players. And would you say the same?
No, yeah, definitely. That's what it's all about. To create a group that obviously that everyone is willing to fight for each other. And when you have that and you find that togetherness in a squad, and that willingness is really, really difficult to beat a team like that, because when you have players that are not willing to give up and always have the teammate and always being around, always being around the teammate to help, to give them a hand. And that's what we had that season. The war team that we knew, everyone knew the roles, everyone knew what we were good at, and we knew that we were more physical and strong than the other team in terms of the running perspective. So we knew that if we get to 60th minute, we're still in the game, because there's loads of games that season that we were 1-0 down and come back and winning 2-1 or end up winning 3-1. We knew the longer the game was going and we're still in the game, we knew that we have more chances to win the game.
No, exactly, yeah. And
I genuinely thought. Sorry, go on.
No, go on, Freez. Sorry.
I genuinely thought then, Yann, you were going to lead towards saying, and it doesn't matter how far out you are, they all count.
Again, sorry.
I thought you were going to lead it into, it doesn't matter how far out you are out. If you put it in the net, it still counts.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. It doesn't matter who scores, as soon as it was all matters.
And I guess kind of looking at that togetherness back in the promotion years as well, were you kind of fueled on by the fact that Morecambe, as a club, were just generally not very fancied as promotion favourites? So do you kind of get a reading of that from like the media and other fans of other clubs? And did that kind of, knowing that you're the underdogs for promotion, does that kind of spur you on and kind of make that group even tighter?
If I'm honest with you, I've never felt the underdog. Clubs that I've been, I've never felt that way. I try, always been lucky enough to go to clubs that have the ambition to go somewhere. And obviously, with Morecambe, obviously before the Gaffer came in, was a club that obviously was fighting with relegation. But obviously, me knowing the manager for many years, I know his ambition, I know where he wants to be, I know where he wants to take this club, and that was never a question since day one. When I've been with him, that was to consider just to go see the league go by. He's always to want more, always to get as high as possible. And obviously for him, he's a winner. He wants to win. And obviously he wants to get back this club to where he believe where the clubs belong, and that's high up of the league.
So just could kind of, I think, round things off really quite nicely. Kind of segues quite nicely into what are your hopes for this season then?
The hope this season, obviously, is no secret. I think, we have built a really nice squad. I think this season is going to be really tight. They're all really, really good teams. But obviously, we can only focus on ourselves. And for us, is to be up there. We want to be up there. We know we've got the ability to be up there. And it depends on us to week in and week out to put the work to give us strong chances to when it comes end of April, the beginning of May to be in that top 7.
Lovely stuff. Thanks very much, Yann. Back over to you, Freez.
Well, it'd be remiss of me not to use this opportunity to chat to James about what's been going on off the field, boardroom-wise here. Couple of things, James. First of all, obviously, interview with the gaffer last week saying that there could be more signings, but it's more likely there'll be new signings if we get new ownership, which leads nicely into there was a lot of interest and a lot of, shall we say, speculation about a Sikh group wanting to come and take over the club. And I know you've been involved sort of in the background in that. How's that going?
Yeah, there is a process ongoing, and it's probably further progressed than any has been for quite some time, until something fundamental changes. We're just pushing it along, but there is a process ongoing. It is more progressed than before, and yeah, we're hopeful for some proper progress over the course of the next few days or week. But things take time. we're not in the same old cycle that we were in for the best part of the last 2 years, though. There is something happening. There's tangible progress occurring, and I'm a bit more confident now than I would have been if you'd asked me that question 2 or 3 months ago.
And so, presumably, you have met with some of the people that are interested, or are you just running blind again, or have you actually met with them?
No, we've had different members of the board at different times. We've had conversations with them. They visited the stadium, so there's been contact. You've got to basically get past the point where any potential buyer is talking with any potential owner, starts to meet with the people who are actually involved in the club, and then goes through the process that is required by the EFL, and that's the key part. That's the part where things get checked properly. But we have had some contact, and from the contact I've had, I've got greater confidence than again I would have had 2 or 3 months ago if you've asked that question.
And the big question that I keep getting asked is is Sabjot involved?
I've been categorically assured that he isn't, and I don't believe he is.
That's a fair enough answer. Right, as we finish off, I need obviously. Yann, you've been around the club long enough to know. Obviously, James, a long-standing fan, just like myself, and the young whippersnapper here in Joel. We've got to talk about Stuart Drummond announcing that he's leaving for pastures new to take new things on, and I understand that. But a 33-year career. He started with us when we had Jim Harvey as the manager, and Jim saw the potential in him. And I remember him making his debut, and that was in the Vauxhall Conference. And just about everybody in the 1,000 odd that were there that day would say he would never make a footballer as long as he couldn't lace his own boots up. And seriously, he wasn't great on his debut, and everybody was like, "What the hell?" And Stuart Drummond went on to be possibly one of the finest midfields in the Vauxhall Conference. Or the Nationwide Conference, or the Nationwide League, or the National League as it is now. I've gone through all the various ones there, but obviously had a fantastic career at Chester City, Shrewsbury, and then came back to us and finished his career with us. And then he's worked his way up to be head of the academy. And that is absolutely fantastic. 29 years out of his 33-year professional career, he's been at Morecambe FC. And there's nothing else I can say other than good luck, Stewie. Whatever you decide to do, I'm sure it'll make it a success. And I'm sure you agree with that, James and Joel and Yann. James?
I absolutely agree with that. I don't think there's any question. I'm not saying this because he's the person who's just decided he wants to go and try something different. But he had 606 games for us. That's more than any player in Morecambe's history. He scored 81 goals, played at multiple levels. He's then stayed in the club and he's managed the reserve team. He's led the academy. He's developed players that have led to the biggest transfer fees that Morecambe's ever known. Stuart is, for me, the legend, and I'm not just saying that. I'm not blowing smoke up his backside, and he probably doesn't listen to this, but 606 games for the Shrimps, plus 2 significant back office jobs. He is it. There's no other player. With apologies to Yann, who is a more recent legend, but there is no other player for me that even comes close from a legend status perspective. It's to the beat of the drum. Absolutely wonderful to be able to say nice things about him and wish him every possible bit of luck for the future. And
Joel, you can sort of understand. Doing the same thing for many, many years, it's time to try something. You need new challenges to keep you going. I'm aware of that. You're aware of that, but he will be missed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, I think most professional footballers would be delighted if they made 606 appearances throughout their whole career, let alone Stuart Drummond making it for just one club. And it's fairly likely that that's a record that'll never be broken for Morecambe. 606 appearances for the Shrimps is pretty insane. Obviously, I remember when he came back to the club in, I think it was 2008 January, in our first season back in the Football League, and he was a real class act to have back in the team. And I think he actually played in the first League Two playoff final at the new Wembley. The same season we went up, which I'd stumbled across that during lockdown when I was watching some old Sky Sports footage of old playoff finals. But yeah, been a great servant for the club. Had some great success here, like James has already touched upon, with both as a player, but then in the in the academy developed side, selling people on. Like we've had Leif Davis, Adam Mayer, people like that come through, and others. Lots of left backs teams. Not maybe that's what he's particularly good at developing. But yeah, honestly, we wish him all the best, and yeah, hopefully he goes on to have many successes through in whatever career he chooses next.
So they are. There's your target, Yann. 606 games for us. Do you think you can make it?
I'll do my best. I can try. I do my best.
Well, listen, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much to all our guests. Yann, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope at some point you'll come back on this season. You can tell us how it's going, and we can have a nice chat again. And obviously we can talk about half a dozen goals from a yard out. James, a pleasure as always. And obviously Joel, brilliant questions as always. I'm going to leave the questions to you for our guests this season. If you're listening to this, Matt Smith does a fantastic job getting the players and the backroom staff to come on. And they've asked very nicely if it could be a player or a backroom staff person once every 2 weeks. So we're going to open it up to anybody out there who wants to come on and give their views just once a fortnight. So like next Thursday, we will be recording. So if you fancy coming on and chatting about how Yann scored from 35 yards against Gillingham, then you'd be very welcome. You can contact us on Facebook or get hold of us through the Shrimps Trust via Joel. But please do get in touch. This has been the first ShrimpNet of the season. I hope you've enjoyed it, and join us again next week.
Very sorry to steal your outro, Freeze. It was a lovely outro, but just a quick couple of trust things. Coach travel. Very quickly, we've had obviously a lot of requests over the past couple of years about coach travel, and currently we're the only ones with the only proper kind of official coach travel that's happening. And so far, uptake hasn't been amazing. We just about managed to get one going at the Walsall. We've had very minimal uptake on the Doncaster coach. So it's a service that people have been asking for quite passionately at times for a while now, and it's on. And Pat Stoyles has done a really good job of getting loads of quotes lined up right up and for several months in advance. So if it's a service that people want to keep going, great. But we need people to sign up, because if people don't sign up, ultimately it's going to have to be knocked on the head. So if you are wanting to kind of come to the away games on the Trust Coach, please do just get in touch, and we'd be delighted to have you. And finally, as well, we had our AGM the other week. It was a good occasion. Thanks to everybody who came along. Currently, we have got a vote open for new board members. So I think we've got until Thursday, I think, that people can still vote. So you should have an email in your inbox with a link to the voting. If you don't, just please feel free to get in touch. We could pass the link on. And it'd be great to have as many votes as possible for the new board trust members. But yeah, sorry to steal your outro, Freeze, but it's actually to squeeze that in.
You've done well there. Join us next week.
Night, gents.